What if the reason your marketing campaign isn't working has nothing to do with your funnel, your ads, or even your budget, but everything to do with how you sound? Welcome, or hopefully welcome back to Reliability Matters. I'm your host, Mike Conrad, and I am so glad you're here. My guest today is Ryan Clark, and his journey into entrepreneurship started from a place many founders know all too well. He invested money he didn't have into a program that failed, went completely broke, and was forced to confront the hard truth. His business wasn't broken because he lacked effort or skill. It was broken because his messaging sounded pretty much like everyone else's. That realization changed everything. Ryan went on to develop a contrarian approach to marketing that focuses on fixing the messaging foundation most businesses ignore. Today, he's helped generate more than $35 million in sales for his clients by helping them stop competing on price and become the obvious choice in their market. In the first half of this episode, we'll talk with Ryan about his path into entrepreneurship and the moments that forced him to rethink how business actually works. In the second part of the show, we'll dig into why funnel-first thinking fails, how messaging leaks revenue without anyone noticing, and why fixing the message often matters more than adding another tactic. Ryan Clark joins me right after this, so stick around. This is going to be good. Hey, Ryan, welcome to the program. I'm so glad you're here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Mike. Glad to be here. Very excited.
Excellent. So, Ryan, you've described, and as I mentioned it in the intro, investing $10,000 that you didn't have. We've all been there. I've been there, certainly, into a program that failed and ending up completely broke. What an exciting intro. So, what did that moment force you to confront about yourself as an entrepreneur?
I think that I didn't have it all figured out when I thought that I would, and that things were going to take a lot longer than I thought they were to be successful. And little did I know that even the time that the success I was looking for at that point, that even getting that success, the next level of success would take about even 10 times longer than that. So what an interesting thing that was. And, looking back, though, it was a very good sales process that these guys went through. And it took a few weeks even, and it was with phone calls, nothing over Zoom. We were doing phone calls. This was maybe 8 years ago or so. I was very excited as a new coach, been doing marketing for a long time, but needed the business side figured out. And then I got this, there was a guy I was following, consuming his content, reached out, and then I got on a phone call with a guy that was nice, and then a phone call with another guy. And I just happened to have this money saved up with cryptocurrency. And so I had it, I could make that first payment. And then I did. And then I was out on my roof that night looking up at the stars thinking, man, this is it. I'm never going to have to worry about money again. I've got the business. I'm going to have everything I need. And it turned out not to be. And, funny, but not funny enough, Mike, 99% of the coaches that I talk to these days suffered that same kind of fate of getting into a program that did not deliver what was promised, was mostly a bunch of bullshit and talking and coaching that didn't get back to you. And that's kind of how I'm helping people from my end, except actually delivering some good results.
Yeah, I think the stereotypical view of a coach, and this is part slide, part reality, but I don't mean it as much as a slide, is, a coach is someone you hire to tell you what time it is. And the first thing they do when they're on the clock is ask if they could borrow your watch. So part of that might be interpreted as it's all bullshit, which is not, obviously, but someone might get that. But I think the bigger takeaway from that is the answers are usually right there in front of the business leader, and they just can't see them. They're so into the weeds, they're so low altitude that they proverbially can't proverbially. Boy, that's not going to be a word that makes it to air. They're so deep in the woods, they can't see the forest from the trees. And it takes someone with a little bit more altitude, fresh eyes, perspective, to go, yeah, it's right there, right behind you. Turn around, one step to the left, right? Has that been your experience, in working with coaches before you were a coach and as you work with clients, that the answers are sometimes painfully obvious, that they're just not seeing it?
Yeah. Well, I think in this day and age when there's so many coaches, so there's something like over the past 4 years, the number of coaches has gone from like 67,000 to like 140,000. Like it's just exploded over these past few years. And, I think what's happening is there's a lot of people that aren't really trusting themselves and their own wisdom and their own inner voice to do the things that they know is right and that are going to work. And instead, they're all looking up to all these people, these coaches, influencers who are telling them what to do. And they're just believing them, thinking that they have all the answers, when really they're just good at selling whatever it is that they're selling. And they're not actually maybe that good at coaching or serving, doing whatever they're doing. So, this is something I've been talking a lot about with my executive and leadership coaching clients, that they're teaching their clients, leaders and executives of companies, to really trust their own inner voice, to trust their intuition, to help them give themselves permission to not have to ask so much or maybe delegate so much or rely on other people's path for them. So on the one hand, yes, I think that is very, very true that entrepreneurs are missing what's in front of them. Now, that being said, the work that I do with messaging is very, very difficult. And, 99% of people out there doing marketing, everyone who's a marketer, business coach, they say that they'll help you with their messaging. But the thing about it is a very difficult skill. It's a very difficult thing to get right. That it's not even something that, if you don't know, like if you haven't been studying copywriting and marketing and direct response and all these things for years, you wouldn't know how to do it well. So at the same time, it kind of, for me, seeing people, they are getting scammed by marketers who don't know what they're doing. So it's like, there are some things that you can't do on your own that you do got to get help with too.
Yeah, in my case, what was blocking me from seeing a better way to market was it just seemed counterintuitive. The way we're doing it now, when it was explained to me, the person, my mentor, who said that, what we should be doing versus what we were doing, sounded nuts. It just sounded crazy. I mean, Ryan, it was like, if you want to sell more product, stop talking about your product all the time. And I'm like, what? That's our shtick. That's what we do. We get up every morning to build this product and design great products for a very specific industry. And we need to explain to people all about the product. Mike, they don't care. They don't care. They don't even have a place to put that. There's no scale they can put that on because they don't understand why they even need your product. And so I think that one of your challenges and what makes it so difficult, I think, is that I'm sure if you just came in and said, here's what we're going to do for you, without explaining the underlying reasons, they would think you're nuts. They would be very uncomfortable with that because they have to let go of whatever they thought was working. We were obnoxious advertisers in the early days of the company. We were braggadocious. We pounded our chests. We basically came very close, almost verbatim, of saying we're the best and everyone else sucks and all that. And we were selling stuff. But looking back now, I think we were selling things in spite of our marketing, certainly not because of our marketing. And when we switched to an entirely different approach where the main goal, the primary and sole exclusive goal was we need to sell product. We need to tie one ad, look at the KPIs and know exactly which ad drew people to us. That just did not happen. So I think you're right. I think it's very difficult to comprehend, very unconventional to even think about comprehending it, and extremely counterintuitive. And in saying all that, the most effective thing we ever did at our company, bar none, and my company's 34 years old, that was the best decision we ever made, was to dump everything we thought we knew about marketing and just change the rules. And I think you're a rule changer. From what we've talked before on a pre-interview and my research on you, definitely you're kind of a bull in a china shop, different approach to marketing. Would you describe yourself that way, or am I over exaggerating that?
No, yeah, I would definitely. I'll give you an example of that. So, what most of the market is doing is acting like a car salesman, and they're saying, yes, we're the best, we're the cheapest, we're the fastest, we have the most testimonials, we, are doing things in a way that nobody has ever seen before. So they're going on this very like, we're the best kind of approach. But what we found works better, and that's different, and that it really doesn't feel like selling, makes it more so that people can say relate to you or resonate with you and come maybe pre-sold to you and feel more comfortable talking to you, and it doesn't feel like a sales call kind of conversation, is to take a doctor approach, take a consultative approach. So, for example, we've got a client. He sells a software that helps grocery stores reduce their shrink. So, shrink in a grocery store, like in the meat department, there's all this meat that goes to waste. There's product that gets expired and they don't know how to manage it correctly. So his software will go, and it's a system to help them manage that. So the system has two parts. It has the actual like app part, like the inventory management part, and there's a human part to it. Now, most apps out there, they're touting, his competitors are touting AI and say AI is going to be able to do everything for you. It's going to be able to keep track of everything. It's going to let you know things, preeminence, prescient stuff. It'll let you know everything before you need to know it. Now, my client's angle is, well, yes, we have this, their system works with AI, but the human element is absolutely necessary because AI can't do what a human can do. You wouldn't just trust AI to do your taxes for you, would you? Like, no, we're not quite there yet. So you need that human element. Now, but my client, he's been in this game. He knows more about shrink than anyone. And he's been like thinking about product shrink in grocery stores for something like 30 years. But the way he's been selling it has been like the stuff he sent us. It's all about the percentages in shrink that he's able to save companies, how he can save a couple percent more in shrink because of the human, because of the way he does it, because of his company name. And he's selling like on speed, like, we're going to be able to get this done faster for you. So he's trying to compete with this market of AI by talking about statistics. But the way that we're shifting it now, we're not going from the approach of, hey, we're just going to be able to reduce the percentage points faster. We're saying that, how many, like kind of that story I just brought up, like how many of you in this room in a pitch or something, say he's presenting, like how many of you would trust AI to do your taxes for you? Okay. Not very many, right? Now, so what we want to do instead of just relying on AI is we need this human element, and we're going to create fractional store managers where your people, they're going to take ownership of their department. We're going to use the human element of somebody who really cares about the business, is able to notice things, and use that in combination with AI so that you're able to do these. Like, that's how we're going to get it. It's not just about this better software or method. We're creating fractional store managers that are going to help to do all these things. So it's like what we're doing is we're creating a sales narrative. We're not just going from one aspect. We're saying, hey, this is the real reason why what you're doing hasn't been working the way that you've wanted to. This is why you've used that AI software in the past, and it's still your shrink numbers aren't getting where they are. It's because you need that human element. And then what we're going to do, the way to solve that problem is to have a fractional store manager that can do both of these things. So we're consulting. We're not even really selling. We're eliminating competition while making you the most logical choice in the market.
When you were in that phase of financial stress, I'm thinking about, the $10,000 idea that didn't work out. And you had, I'm sure at that time, a lot of uncertainty, like, what the hell did I just do? What beliefs about business or marketing in general did you have to unlearn?
So unlearning beliefs about business and marketing. I mean,
the good thing about these traumatic issues is they shake you, right? All of a sudden, you're just like things that you would never have contemplated before now are better options. I call it the burning building syndrome. You're standing on the balcony of a 50-story building. The building's on fire. Fire is coming towards you. You jump. No rational person would choose to jump out of a building, but it's the better choice, right? And you just pray that there's a flatbed filled with pillows driving by that you can fall into. I mean, it could happen. But some of my best decisions, I waited until that burning building moment, right? So were there any jump out of building moments for you that allowed you to realize something you'd never thought of before?
Yeah. The way it's happened is things have happened and I've always been pushed into the direction that I've needed to go. Like that $10,000 program that I basically thought was a waste, it kind of wasn't a waste because I did learn a lot about mindset and I did get a lot of confidence and faith in myself. And I did land a $4,000 client, which like looking back was amazing. I didn't have anything. I didn't even really like have a program structure. I had belief in myself that I could help this person, but I didn't know shit about shit. I didn't know anything about the business, the structure. But this is a person that I still talk to this day that I consider one of my closest friends was this client. But, so I had that and it happened and it pushed me into something else. It pushed me into talking to this guy named Dan who messaged me on LinkedIn in a direct message. And he had messaged me about something, about marketing, about his program. And I was like, he was a nice guy. I got on the phone with him because I was broke. I was getting $1,000 chunks pulled out of my account from this other company. And I was like, yeah, he's offering me some free help. Nice guy, like, sounds great. Yeah, I'll talk to you, Dan. And then I had another conversation because he sent me a message later and he said, hey, how's it going with the marketing? Are you able to get any like leads yet or sales? And I'm still like, no, man, I don't. I have no idea what to do. And then he got onto that call with me the second time. And, after I told him like, I'm broke, I don't know what to do. Like, I want to make this work. He said, you know what? I want to give you 6 weeks free access into my program. And he's a marketing coach into my program. And that was like amazing. Like, thank you. And he taught me this method, this direct messaging method called the cheetah method. I learned the cheetah method. 2 weeks later, I booked 10 calls. I went from booking 0 calls to literally booking 10 calls that next week. And tonight I had something in that 1 week, that one method. I had something that $10,000 program could have never given me, but I actually got something practical that worked. And so it pushed me into that. And then that also led me to meet one of my greatest mentors, who's now my business partner, because he was the sales coach on that program. He's now my best friend, business partner. We have this agency together. So, it's like there, and I think, I know we talked about this before, last time we talked, but before any of this happened, I had a video production company with 2 of my best friends. And we were friends for years in college, filming stuff together. We had a business and, we got by for about 1.5 years. We passed the 1-year mark in business and we're like, hey guys, we made it past a year. 80% of businesses fail. And we're scraping by. We had 3 of us, getting by on like 5-6K a month or something like that. So, and one day they quit and they basically blamed me because I was the sales guy and it didn't work. And that was, it was pretty devastating. But that pushed me, that made me feel like, I can do my own thing now. It's like I have freedom. They didn't really have the ambition, the drive that I did, and I wanted to be with them, but now I can really do my own thing. And that's what led me into coaching and into marketing in the first place. So yeah, I love how you're bringing that up. It hasn't quite felt like it's a burning building. It feels like, I don't know, it's like pushing me into another, like it's the idea, I think, of one door closes and another one opens. Yeah. And I've always had this faith that there's going to be an open door. I just got to be open enough to look to find it.
You referenced your cheetah method. So I'm going to take you from cheetahs to ants. How's that for a segue? You once referenced the moment that you discovered ants inside your hard drive. And now on the surface, that sounds absurd, but what was that experience, or why was that experience such an important lesson about opportunity and perspective? You got to put the dots in for me to connect ants in a hard drive to a learning moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty crazy thing. So, I live here in Brazil in Rio de Janeiro, and there's lots of bugs. Like I've got a couple of little salamanders that are always crawling around my roof, and I try, my walls here, and I try to grab him and put him outside through the window. Then he appears again, and then his like girlfriend comes along too, and they're just like running around the walls and stuff. And I wake up every other day. There's like a cockroach on the on the floor somewhere. So I got like lots of bugs in here. But yeah, I had my hard drive sitting here on the desk one day, and I just like over a few days I'd noticed there's just these little ants everywhere crawling around my desk. And here in Brazil they're really small. In the US they're mostly kind of like bigger ants. Like here a lot in Brazil, they have big leafcutter ants here too. Well, they're like little tiny ones. And they're crawling around everywhere for a few days. I'm like, where are these coming from? And then I picked up my hard drive. I've got it here. But then I just like look, and there's just like ants start crawling out of this hard drive. They start like sprawling out. And then I tried to blow them away. And as soon as I blew into this hard drive, more, just like hundreds are pouring out of this thing, pouring out. And I'm like blowing into the hard drive, like those old school video games, like in the 90s, we had to blow on the game to blow the dust out. I'm like doing that to this hard drive. These ants it was just the most insane thing that all of these ants could come out of this hard drive, and I'm like killing them and moving them. So I was just so concerned about that because all my stuff is on here. I've got like hundreds of calls that I've moved, big data, photos, and all of this stuff onto this hard drive. And somehow, I linked it back up, and it still worked. Like even with like these, millions of ants inside this hard drive, this thing like still fired up, and it started working. And, there's a few different ways to go about it, but really, I think it has to do about just resilience and in entrepreneurship. And that even like when there's a million ants crawling around in your hard drive, in your brain, you can still just with a bit of house cleaning, blow those out. You can still be working. You can still move. It's like we've all got ants in the hard drive somewhere at all times. But just because they're there doesn't mean you can't get them out. Doesn't mean you can't still work and do the things that you need to do.
I love how that real physical event turned into a great metaphor. Just as an aside, I don't want to scare you, but just as an aside, I'm in the electronics industry. We're equipment manufacturers that build all the electronics that you use. I was at a symposium not too long ago, and there was someone speaking about reliability, and this was the subject was on EV charging stations, electric car charging stations, and one of the major problems they were having in terms of reliability was ants, not the physical ant itself, but ants will pee on things. And the concentrated urine from 10,000 ants was corroding the circuit board and causing all sorts of problems, all the way to failure. So, so keep blowing away those ants whenever you can, right? Because they can, over time, lead to trouble. But then that would be a worse metaphor. So maybe we won't even go down that road. At what point did you realize that you were becoming the go-to messaging person? Was it almost accidentally? Was it rather intentionally? That resulted in building an actual brand around teaching that and consulting and becoming a coach yourself?
Just after talking to so many coaches that have been failed, by so many other programs and different marketers. I mean, our branding, our messaging is have you tried funnels and that hasn't worked? I'm going to help you understand why and what does. Have you been burnt out working with other agencies or burned by other agencies and that hasn't worked? I'm going to help you understand why and what does. So even part of this is the way that I'm describing this is how we help our clients attract sophisticated buyers, solution-aware buyers. So people that are actually ready to take action, that have intent, because the people that you want to talk to and you want to attract, they're the ones that have tried other things that haven't worked, and they're in research mode. They're still looking for, what is it that is going to work for me, that's actually going to help me, do the things that I need to do. These are the people that are closest to the buying decision that we want to speak to, as opposed to someone who's maybe just interested, who they're like, yeah, I would like to have, have a few more clients, or I would like to have more confidence. Let's see what this person's doing. Oh, but there's that other coach that I talked to, or maybe I should go back to therapy, or, maybe I should just work on my diet or whatever. It's like, we want to talk to the people that want to invest. And these are the solution aware buyers that have tried things that haven't worked. The thing is, those people, they're really burnt out of the market because they have been burned by other agencies or solutions or whatever. So how do we talk to them? That's the idea of going from this message of, hey, if you've tried this and it hasn't worked, I'm going to help you understand why and what does. And that's the doctor frame. So anyway, that all ties into, that's kind of how, I guess, before really being able to articulate that really well, was talking to so many coaches, consultants. Those are the people that we primarily work with, and people in small businesses too, small teams. But they're all saying that we've tried doing all of the things in marketing and it hasn't worked. And we've just seen, me and my partner, that, hey, you're not differentiated from the market. Let's do a test. Let's go into your landing page right now. Could you take someone else's name and replace that with your name on this page? And could they get away with what you're saying? 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. 9 times out of 10, especially these days, people are going to ChatGPT, entering in some information about their target market and what they do, and it puts out really generic kind of message. So it's no wonder that someone is going to look at what you say and you're not attracting the right kinds of people, tire kickers, freebie seekers. You send out direct messages, spend money on ads, and nobody's responding. It's that you're not articulating this message well enough. And so after we started doing these messaging, we have specific intensives called the Market Messiah Messaging Intensive. And then once we do these for clients, once we do that and then start building the funnel on top of that, we've been getting really good results for them. Let me give you a quick example here. So we had a client, she's an executive coach. She's helping people basically get from the senior vice president level to like the higher up executive kinds of levels. And she was doing marketing and running her funnel and doing ads by herself. She's basically doing a workshop model. And she was doing ads on LinkedIn, paying about $60 to $80 per lead. So to get one person onto her workshop, she was spending anywhere between 60 and $80. So then when we started working, we did the messaging intensive and we started really targeting the people that were feeling like they were passed over for the promotion. There's all sorts of things that these people are thinking about, but one of the message we harped in on is that feeling of like you're getting passed over. And once we targeted in on that, we've done our second workshop now, and we've gotten that lead cost down from $6 to $8 to get somebody onto this. So just like absolutely, incredible in terms of we're targeting the right people and they're responding and they're upselling from this workshop too. So, and it's not, we gotta test, we gotta think about that. And then we're also testing on the first workshop from, okay, this one worked here, so let's double down on that for the next one. And we're going to keep continuing to refine the system.
You touched on something, I'm not sure if you intended to or not, but I want to drill down on that. A lot of your clients probably come to you because they want more business, right? Their marketing messages, their funnel systems are ineffective or not effective enough. But you touched on something, because what we experienced when we changed our marketing messaging structure from braggadocious advertising to creating value, to education, to connecting on a almost like a subconscious level with our customers, a conscious marketing approach. Not only did we get more business, but we attracted way, way better clients. And in my world, our equipment uses certain specific chemistries, and I'm not a chemist by any means, but one of the things I had learned over the years is in the chemical world, if you have if we have anyone in our audience that's a chemical engineer, they'll go, yeah, duh, Mike, we know that. But there's a kind of a rule in chemistry. It's called Hansen's law of solubility, and that is like attracts like. And I just take that, strip out the chemical meaning, and apply it toward business. You receive what you put out, right? And when our messaging went upscale, when it went from let's educate and see if we get sales, not the primary focus wasn't just hit a sales target, right? The primary focus was let's provide some real value. Let's gain authority. Let's become an influencer. Let's, all those things. Not only did our sales go up, the quality of customer exponentially improved. We had customers that were seeking solutions. We had customers that wanted to partner with us on implementing a solution. We stopped having the first words come out of our potential customer's mouth is, what kind of discount can I get? What's the price? When they lead with price, then that's usually a red flag. Not always, but usually a red flag. And price is important. It comes in there somewhere. But when they lead with that, when we switched our marketing approach, we no longer received the first battery of questions all about price and extended payment terms and discount structures and what can you do for me and what can I get for free and how much can you extend my warranty? It's all about, here's my problem. Do you know anything about that? And then at some point it's like, oh yeah. Oh shoot, I forgot to ask. How much is this? I mean, it was almost an aside. It wasn't primary. I think that, in addition to raising revenue, which is always important, I think raising the right type of revenue is exceptionally important. Because when we were doing our former marketing strategy, I liken it to fishing with a mile-wide net behind the boat and trolling the waters and catching anything that can come into that net. We were catching prize marlin and tuna and ahi-ahi, and we were catching tires and old ship anchors and, bottom feeder fish. We just got all the crap and all the good stuff in one. And when we attracted toxic customers, we may get the sale. We may make money on the sale, but we're going to lose it over time because they would suck us dry later in terms of attention span and all of that. So there's something to be said beyond just raising, more sales to getting the right customer, because that switch, and I'm sure you see this and your clients see this, that switch changes from transactions to relational structures. So instead of everything just being a transaction, for you give me this, I give you that. See you next time. It really became a long-term relationship, which what happens when you form relationships? They come to you first. They refer you to their friends. They don't just become a customer, they join your tribe. They will recommend you to everyone who will listen. They'll even wear your merch if you provide them merch, which they become our sales force because they're so happy. And they feel like our number one intention is to solve their problem. Down the list somewhere is, we make money off it. But it doesn't come across as we're only in it for the money. We're in it to solve a problem. And we make our money by solving problems. But the problem is key. That I think what you're doing for your clients, not just raising revenue, but raising the caliber of customer that they get, is priceless. I think that is and underrated. Most people that will come to a coach are, kind of at the burning building moment. They're just like, I just need anything to get more revenue, which is fine. We all go through that. But thinking beyond that, once you cross over that revenue hurdle, how much of that revenue do you want to keep? And how do you want to grow? So I think what you're doing is exceptionally valuable beyond just the numbers. Agree?
Mm. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Yeah. And sounds like that's exactly what you're doing too. It's the value first approach, the consultative approach. It's just like, you shouldn't be you shouldn't need to get onto a call with somebody in a combative kind of way where you need to sell them. And this is where I think that all this upfront work comes in, like having great content, giving out informational kinds of content, being a personal brand, doing podcasts, putting yourself out there, putting your opinions out there. Like, I'm trying to lose people. I'm trying to be myself. I'm trying to say, I don't like, half of my content is me just what I wrote in my journal last night about how I'm feeling, about the things that I'm seeing. And some like natural things come in there that are going to polarize some people. But at the end of the day, when I get onto a call with somebody, they already know what I do, what value I bring, and they've seen my content and they like me and they say, wow, Ryan, like, thank you for sending me that outreach. Like, I'm so happy to be talking to you. And that happens because when I reach out, I don't think I shared this with you, but when I do outreaches for people, I will send a message that's giving them some ideas for ways that they could increase conversions based on what I see on their website. And it's based in, in our messaging philosophy. I'm saying, hey, I see that you're doing this. I think you could improve this. Have you thought about this idea using missing piece positioning? Maybe you could speak to those people that have tried things. We call them solution aware prospects. So I'm giving something really valuable first that's different. It's a long message. I don't know what you've heard about, marketing and, social media marketers and stuff, Mike, but most of them, I basically do the opposite of what most marketers say they should do. They say when you send a DM, it should be really short and hooky and capture their attention. Nobody wants to read very long. When you do LinkedIn posts, again, it should be short and you should format it this certain way and you should have a strong hook. And it's like, that's what everyone does. And they're fighting noise with noise. The thing is, we all read books. People listen to your hour-long podcast because they like your stuff. People will listen and they will read things that are relevant and interesting to them. So when I send a multiple paragraph message to someone as a cold outreach, the people that respond, they read the whole damn thing and they say, thank you. Yes, I would love to see a screen share video. Because what I do after that, I say, hey, can I explain more? I'll record a video and share more of my thoughts just to give more. And so you can see I'm like a real person. And I will record a 10-minute video breaking down this messaging for them. But the thing is, 20 to 30% of these videos, 20 to 30% of these outreaches I send, I get people saying, yes, I'd like to see this video. 75% of people I send this video to, they get onto a call with me. And 75% of people I get onto a call with will buy my $1,000 intensive. And then half of those I later upsell for 10K plus. So, what I do and what I coach my clients to do and what I encourage everyone to do takes more work. It takes upfront work of figuring out your messaging, why you're unique, how you do things, articulating, giving first. But I'm sick. I know you are too. Sounds like it. I'm sick of working with clients that I don't like to work with. I'm sick of talking to people that don't want to buy stuff, that don't want to invest, that are just, coaching so they can have a lifestyle business. I don't want to talk to those people. So I'm going to filter them out with my messaging and with my approach beforehand so that I can get to a place where I can actually be sustainable, and I can scale all of these systems. And I do, I have VAs that handle most of my outreaches now, not the video part, but at least the first part. So it's just worth it in my eyes.
Yeah. You talk about the strategic messaging architecture discovery. In simple terms, what is that? And why do most businesses miss whatever that is?
Mm-hmm. So this is the idea of the doctor frame of the diagnosis. So when we create messaging, we have 6 main elements. We have your first 3 elements are your sales narrative, which is your root cause, your big idea, and your unique mechanism. And then your next 3 elements are your positioning, your content pillars, and your buyer angles. So essentially your sales narrative, this is the diagnosis part. This is where you're first explaining with the root cause. Like, say somebody lands on your page. The first thing you're going to explain to them is, hey, if this is the real reason why what you've been experiencing, what you've been trying to make work hasn't worked. Rather than saying, hey, look at me, I have 20 years of experience, I can help you get to the next level in your career. We're saying, hey, this is the real reason why you've been going to mindset coaches and you've been trying therapy for years and you've been eating well and that hasn't worked. It's because of this XYZ thing that we call, or this thing that we call whatever. This is your root cause. And then that begs the question of, okay, well, if that's the real reason, that makes sense, Ryan. That's okay. I get why those things haven't worked. And that makes sense that that's the real reason. So that does two things. One, it eliminates all that competition we just talked about. And then two, it positions you as that trusted advisor where we're thinking, okay, Ryan's here to help me. So then that begs the question, well, what is the right thing then? That's where your big idea comes in. So that is your unique approach to solving that problem. And since you're one of the only ones that's articulated the root cause, where 90% of other people in your market, they don't articulate the root cause, since you're one of the only ones to do that, and now you're articulating your big idea, which is your unique approach to solving that problem, now you've eliminated 99% of competition. So then it begs, okay, that sounds great. I like that approach to solving that problem. Now, how do you do that? So this is where your unique mechanism comes in. This is your methodology. This is your framework. Now, most people, they say things like, okay, what we're going to do, step one, we're going to get clarity. Step two, we're going to have action. And step three, we're going to have a sustainability thing. That's not a unique approach. Anybody can say that. Everybody has, they have modules and they're kind of just putting in something that's generic. You need a proprietary framework. You need somebody to look at your mechanism, the way you do things, and they have to feel like, one, they can't do it on their own. And two, they need you to get these kinds of results because you have your unique methodology based in your experience, based on your story. And because of the fact that maybe it's broken up into 3 to 5 pillars or different systems, and each of your pillars or systems is addressing a certain roadblock that they're solving when it comes to the mindset of the leader, and it comes to the communication between leader and team, and it comes to team communication, and it comes to this. And then your program has this XYZ methodology to mindset that's solving that. And you do that like with these 3 things here. And then we're articulating how you do things in a way that is proprietary and yours. And this is our narrative. This is how we make you the category, the most logical choice, really. We're not saying we're better. We're not saying we have more this, less that. It's just, it makes sense to reach out to you and book that call after that.
You're critical of what you call the funnel first fallacy, the 3 F's, funnel first fallacy. Why do you believe most entrepreneurs build their marketing backwards? It's not unusual. I mean, you're almost everyone that probably comes to you, you have to, put the cart on the other side of the horse. So why do you think that's kind of the go-to?
Well, I think, probably lack of awareness, lack of knowledge, and the kind of Me Too philosophy is why most people do marketing backwards. Why they're looking to external resources, external sources. They're seeing Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels, that let's try it like that. Oh, Tony Robbins, he does his funnel. He does a presentation like this. Oh, I've got these ads. Maybe I just need to spend more money on ads because that's what I hear. If you just spend more, you get more results. So I think it's a lack of awareness and a lack of honestly wanting to do the work. I think most people, human nature, perhaps, we're trying to look for the easiest, fastest way to make money. I think most people in business aren't serious. They like to play business. They don't like to actually work hard. And they're just looking for a way to make a quick buck and make a lifestyle business. Honestly, that's probably what 90% of coaches and consultants are. People mean well, but at the end of the day, they're not really willing to invest into marketing. That works. That being said, lots of people have been burned, but so was I. We've all been burned. That's part of business, is getting burned, trying things that don't work. But if you want to succeed, you're going to figure it out. And I think just most people, like I said, they're trying tactical things that are cheap and shallow. But I feel kind of a little, I don't want to blame it all on that, of course. That's just why I'm doing what I'm doing. Honestly, part of my mission is just bringing light to all the bad marketing and swindlers and snake oil that's out there. But even in saying that, most of those marketers mean well too, but they just don't know what they're doing. So it's a tough question, Mike, tough answer.
You say that most businesses are leaking revenue without realizing it. Where do you most commonly see those leaks hiding?
Most businesses are leaking revenue, probably when it comes to time wasted trying things that don't work because they don't have a solid messaging, strategic messaging architecture in place. I mean, honestly, it's even the okay, I'm going to spend more money on ads to try to force this thing to work. You're wasting time, you're leaking money, and you're wasting time and money. You know, you could have just fixed your messaging, and then those same ads would have worked 10 times better. It's the, okay, let's go from the ad to the landing page to the workshop. Say that's the first half of your funnel. Well, there's things like, you know, you're going to have a series of 3 emails leading up to this workshop, and those emails are crap because there's nothing unique about them. There's no story behind them. There's no, you know, you don't have solid copy that's getting anybody excited about it. You're not sharing your story in that, you know, in any of those first emails. A lot of money is wasted in the follow-up, not following up with people, not having, you know, 50% of sales happen on the back end after webinars from your list. So after people do sign up and they don't buy, are you sending out daily emails to your list, or at least, you know, of 3 or 4 a week? And you're reminding them with your content pillars, which is element 6 of the messaging. Are you basing your content on that? So you're moving them closer and closer to the sale if they didn't buy that first time. I mean, it's just a waste of time and money and effort if you're fighting this uphill battle where you're not thinking about how to have a differentiated message, if you're not thinking about, if you're not speaking to the right kind of person, the solution aware, sophisticated buyer that actually wants to spend money, and if you're not cutting through the noise with a differentiated, compelling kind of message. That's really it.
We're coming close on running out of time, so just a couple more questions. For entrepreneurs who feel stuck competing on price, what's the first messaging shift they should consider making?
Mm-hmm. So if you're stuck competing on price, you want to think about how you can be the missing piece, or think about your positioning in the market. So yes, if you're thinking about, okay, what about that person that is cheaper than you? What about the person that is faster than you? What about that person that has more testimonials than you? You know, there's all of those kind of tactical things that people can compete on you with. So you need to find your positioning in the market and where you're filling in that gap. So that's where it comes back down to this sales, this narrative, and being the most logical choice rather than the best choice for your market, where you're saying, hey, if I am a productivity coach, if you've been trying to work with mindset coaches and they don't actually give you an actionable plan, if you've tried working on your health and they had nothing to do with fixing your mindset to actually be motivated to do things, you know, what I do, I used to be an Army Ranger, and I happened to go to be like a Buddhist at the same time. So I combine the Army Ranger mentality with the inner peace of a monk that's going to give you everything that you need to succeed. And nobody else in the market does that. Not only am I an Army Ranger monk, but I have my proprietary Army Ranger monk methodology, and I do it like this, and this based on, you know, my experience, and it's going to look like this. And after a month, it's going to look, feel, and sound like this. After 2 months, you're going to look, feel, and sound like this, and you're going to start doing this and this. So price, people compete on price when they need to actually be thinking about how they can be positioned differently in the market, being the missing piece, and telling their story narrative.
100% agree. And last question, Ryan, how did you describe success when you first started your first business, and how do you describe it today?
Success to me is waking up every day knowing that I'm going to do exactly what I love to do every day. Like, as soon as I found my mission, which happened in college, I'm a sophomore in college, walking the red bricks in the rain of Bellingham, Washington, I got the spike of inspiration to spread good ideas, this message that came to me. I was in the midst of this depression, this bipolar depression, and it was like hard to get out of bed. I couldn't do anything. But then I found this mission, this thing to do. It was like marketing, business. I need to do this. And then the next day I applied for an internship. I created an internship at the Volunteer Center to do marketing and video with a friend. And I just feel like it's the most important thing for life, for anyone, is to have that mission, have a North Star, because when you're working to something every day, it doesn't matter what happened that day. Yes, you have down days, you have good days, but every single day feels amazing when you know that you're improving yourself and you're working towards something. And so as long as I feel like I'm working towards something that I love, that's success for me.
That's today's version of success. Was it different when you first started? Was it like just, let me stay in business one more day. I want to make $1 billion. What was, did it morph, or did you always have that kind of high level, high perspective level of definition of success?
Yeah, to some extent, yeah. But there's definitely been some mile markers. Like when I was first getting started with the business, when I first decided to be a coach, I didn't have clients or enough money to do it. So I was working at a grocery store for 6 hours a day during the day. And then the next 6 hours of the day, I would work on the business, do what I could for outreach and create content and stuff like that. And for about a year, my goal was to move to Brazil. So I live here in Rio de Janeiro. My mother's Brazilian. I have lots of family here, aunts and uncles and cousins. It's a beautiful place. So I thought,
did you speak Portuguese before you moved?
No.
No.
Wow. Very little, just from, a few words, but I learned everything here. And, but I just thought if I could move to Brazil, that would mean that I have a business that's I've made enough and it's sustainable enough that I could move. So I would spend every day, I'd be in the garage. I'd do these boxing workouts, and there's this little Brazilian flag in the corner. And I'd look at this flag while I'm doing these boxing workouts, just think like, I'm going to move there. I'm going to move there. I'd go to the check stand of the grocery store every day, and I'd put my hands on the conveyor belt and kind of put my head down and be like, okay, one day I'm not going to have to come back here. And, and that was it. And then I basically created this offer. I called it a content in an afternoon session to give somebody a month's worth of content in 3 hours in an afternoon. And in about a week, I reached out to everyone in my Facebook network that I had made relationships with, commenting on for the year. And then in that next week, I made $10,000 selling that offer. And then that gave me what I needed to move to Brazil.
That's amazing. You're the first guest. This is episode number 67. So 66 guests before you. Not one of them said their definition of success was to move to Brazil. So we're striking new ground here. Even though you're in beautiful Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, I'm assuming you work with clients virtually well beyond Rio de Janeiro, right? Do you have a footprint in the U.S. or Europe or other places?
Yeah, all around the globe, except, sorry, Aussies and New Zealanders. That's kind of like the total opposite end. It's a little too difficult work with those guys.
Well, there's no common time period. Every once in a while, I have a Australian or a New Zealander on my show, and one of us is either up really early or one of us up a little bit late. There's just a very slim amount of civil overlap for that. But I hear you there. The name of, well, first of all, if people wanted to get a hold of you, Ryan, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
My LinkedIn profile, for sure.
All right.
Yeah, go to LinkedIn, check out something, send me a DM. Okay,
excellent. I will be sure for my viewers who are watching us on YouTube, if you just look down where it says see more, I'll have a direct link to Ryan's LinkedIn profile. Yep, right down here. It's there now. Not really, because I'll put it in later, but that's where it will be. Yes, way. Exactly. We need those AI emoticons, emojis, pointing everywhere, rocket ships and all that. For those listening on your favorite podcast app, just look at the show notes on that podcast app, and we'll direct you over to Ryan's LinkedIn page. And one bit of advice for my audience: don't wait for the building to catch fire before you do something. I waited for the building to catch fire, which makes a great story, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's very stressful. There's something you can do earlier than waiting to have no choice. So, Ryan, thanks for being my guest today. I love your approach to marketing specifically, and I love the Ranger Buddhist thing. I'm gonna have to play that in my head for a while. I love the best of both worlds. Although I don't think the Buddhist thing fits well in a structure of an army, right? But having those two skill sets is amazing. Thanks for being my guest today. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and your journey. Painful as part of that journey was, it led to something much, much, much greater. So thanks for sharing that with me and my audience. And I wish you continued success down there in Rio, and keep blowing the ants off your hard drive.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll definitely do my best. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Before I wrap up, here are some final thoughts. My conversation with Ryan Clark is a reminder that most business problems are not solved by doing more. They're solved by seeing more clearly. Ryan's story is not about chasing tactics or finding the next marketing shortcut. It's about what happens when failure strips everything down to the essentials and forces you to confront what actually matters. In this case, that was messaging. Not the kind that looks good on a website, but the kind that makes people understand why you're different and why you matter. If you're an entrepreneur who feels stuck, frustrated, or caught competing on price, this episode is worth revisiting or sharing with a friend. Sometimes growth doesn't require a new funnel, a bigger budget, or just more noise. It requires fixing the foundation you built everything else on. That's the real takeaway here. Clarity beats complexity, and the breakthrough often comes only after things break. Now, that's a wrap. Thanks for being part of our Reluctant Entrepreneur family. We've been extremely busy recording future episodes with fascinating guests, so be sure to subscribe and get notified when new episodes drop. And one personal favor, if you're watching this on YouTube, consider giving us a like and subscribe. Those two simple clicks really help us expand our reach. If you're an entrepreneur or know someone who would make a great guest, I'd love to hear from you. Visit reluctantentrepreneur.podcast.com to apply or recommend a guest. You can also reach me directly at mike@reluctantentrepreneur.podcast.com. And of course, a quick shameless plug if you're interested in my book, The Reluctant Entrepreneur, Anatomy of a Business Startup from Uncertainty to Unstoppable. It's available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon, as well as an audiobook on both Audible and Amazon. That's it for the shameless plugs. I'm out of here. Thanks again for listening or watching. Until next time, be unstoppable. I'll see you again soon.